Buying property in Dubai is one of the easiest ways to lose money if you don't know what you're doing. And what's most shocking isn't just how much money investors lose, it's how preventable their mistakes are. I've helped investors navigate in this market for years, and I can tell you, most bad investments are totally avoidable if you know what to buy and where. So in this video, I'll show you the worst properties to buy in Dubai and what you should be looking for instead if you actually want to make money. But first, let's get one thing straight. There are no fundamentally bad areas in Dubai. In the UK, for example, there's a clear north-south divide that impacts property investment. But in Dubai, it's not all about location. It's about expectations. Often investors who don't understand the market, they go in with mismatched expectations and it all goes wrong. So I'm going to break down the 4 main ways people invest in Dubai. And for each one, I'll walk you through a specific investor story and show you why their deal didn't work and what you should be doing instead, so that you know exactly what to expect from your investment. So let's start with our first investor, Sarah. Everywhere she looked, people were talking about flipping off-plan properties in Dubai. Buy early and sell before it's finished and walk away with a fat profit. Sounded easy enough, so she jumped in. She picked up an off-plan apartment for $1 million, so she put down around $300,000 and figured she'd be in it for a year or so. At first, it all looked good. The market was booming, prices were rising, and Sarah was already planning what to do with a profit. Then she actually tried to sell and realized her mistake. She bought in the final phase of the development, meaning she was paying way above the initial price point of what the property started at in this location, because apparently, developers can justify the 30% increase of these off-plan properties in the 12 months of launching. So now, people who bought in phase 1 can sell at the same price Sarah bought hers at and were making a juicy profit, while she's stuck with a property that she paid way more for than what she should have. Now she will have to wait until it's ready, or even 1 to 2 years after completion to get the profit she hoped for. Now, let's say someone was actually interested in buying her unit. They'd have to pay $300,000 to Sarah of what she's already paid. They'd have to pay another $200,000 to the developer to reach that 50% resale threshold. She'd have to pay Sarah's premium, 4% Dubai land department fee, and of course, the agency commission. So that's a huge amount of upfront cash. So why would they go to Sarah's unit and buy hers when they can just simply find the units that were launched in phase 1 and get a much better deal and have a property sooner rather than waiting until the last phase? So now she was left with 2 choices. Hold on to it for years, tying up all of the cash, or she sells at a loss to get out. And that's the thing with off-plan flipping in this market. It's way more competitive, so you need to act fast, get in early to really see the gains you expect. But not only that, you need to be prepared to wait until it's at least ready to see the best returns. So unless you're buying into a rare, ultra-exclusive project or getting an incredible deal in phase 1 when there are more expected phases, do not buy off-plan expecting a quick flip. The market is full of people trying to do the same thing. And if your unit isn't special, you'll struggle to resell it if you can resell it at all. Now, on to our second investor, James. Unlike Sarah, he wasn't looking for a flip. He wanted steady rental income. Buy a solid ready property, rent it out, and watch the cash flow come in every single month. And of course, he kept seeing ads everywhere and agents promising 8 to 15% returns in prime location rentals. Obviously, it sounds like easy money, right? So he bought a brand new apartment in central downtown, thinking he'd locked in a great investment. But in reality, he was only making around 5 or 6% yield, and that's before factoring in maintenance service charges, agency fees, and so forth. So where did he go wrong? He got sold on the hype. A lot of these high ROI figures come from brokers and developers selling the dream. The real average in Dubai is closer to around 6% ROI, and unless you're getting an incredible deal, those double-digit figures are hard to find. Now, there was something else James didn't think about, which really upset the investment, and it was the size of the apartment. He only looked at the price tag. The apartment was selling for 1.2 million dirhams, so he figured it was a good deal. But what he didn't realize is it was only 320 square foot. That worked out to over 3,700 dirhams per square foot, way above the average in that area. Now, here's the issue. When you buy a smaller unit for a premium, it doesn't just affect the purchase price, it also limits how much you can rent it out for. Tenants don't care that you paid extra. They just care about what they're getting for their money. That's when James realized he had been missold on the price, the size, and rental expectations. So what should he have done instead? This is where experience matters. Instead of just looking at the price and assuming because it's brand new, it's a solid investment like a lot of people do, what we do is do a full data analysis with our team to work out if we are actually getting a good deal. So a while back, a client came to me and he was sold on the idea of a unit in downtown. He came to seek advice. What he didn't know was that just a few buildings down, there was another unit of a similar size with a similar view selling for 20% less. Now this building was only around 2 years older, but they were both almost identical in terms of quality and amenities. He was just sold on the fact that it was brand new and almost bought into the hype, yet the rental amount he would have generated would have been the same. So of course we went for the other property. Now this could have been a very costly mistake, but don't get me wrong, sometimes an unbelievable deal can just pop up in a brand new building, and if that's the case, then it should be jumped on immediately. But this is why I always tell investors, if you're buying for cash flow, don't just grab the newest, shiniest apartment thinking it will automatically bring big money. Sometimes it can, but most likely not. Instead, do your geographical research, compare surrounding locations and buildings, and ask yourself, is this premium in this building justified? If it is, then great. But if not, then don't go for it. Now, let's talk about our third investor, Grace. She had been watching property videos for months and was convinced she could make a killing by flipping houses. In the UK, she'd done some DIY projects before, picked up a few places, gave them a fresh coat of paint, changed the floors, and sold them for a tidy profit. So when she moved to Dubai, she figured out, why not do the same thing here? Surely it'll work. Buy an older property, fix it up, sell it for a premium. After all, property is property, so how could it be really any different? So she found an older apartment in a prime location. The bones were solid, it just needed a bit of work. Nothing she hadn't handled before. So she hired some contractors, picked out the materials, and planned to have it done within 3 months. Then the headache started. The contractors she worked with didn't speak good English, and somehow what Grace wanted and what was actually happening were two different scenarios. Every time she tried to fix an issue, it dragged the timeline even further. Then came the permits. Turns out, in Dubai, you can't just rip a wall or redo the plumbing without the right approvals, and getting those was not as easy as she thought. She spent weeks going back and forth just to get the green light for changes that would have been simple back home. And then there was the quality issue. Back in the UK, she could get away with using cheaper materials and still make the place look pretty nice. But in Dubai, buyers expect luxury finishes. So when she listed the property at a 40% premium over what she had paid, buyers, they just saw straight through it. This is why we, as a company and a business, focus so heavily on spending more money and actually delivering good homes. Now, we still promise our ROI to be very attractive for our investors, but we're never ripping anybody off by delivering property with terrible materials and terrible workmanships, because we've seen it happen. People, they come to the market, they rush to flip, their expectations get shot, the project drags on for months, and in the end, they lose more money or even break even. So unless you have the right contacts, understand permits, and are willing to invest in high quality finishes, do not try to do property flips without experience or at least some advice. The costs, the delays, and buyer expectations will catch up with you. Finally, meet our last investor, Tom. He was finally making the move to Dubai and wanted to flip a home to live in. So it wasn't an investment necessarily. Somewhere with a great view, plenty of greenery, and a strong sense of community, something everybody wants when buying into a family home. So he started looking at off-plan developments. Brochures looked incredible as always, lush green parks, ocean views, beautiful waterfronts, and massive open spaces. Everything looked like a dream. So he picked a future luxury community, put down his deposit, and started picturing his new life in his new home. But when he finally went to visit the site, half of what was promised wasn't there, and never would be. The beautiful green parks were still just sand. The vibrant high street, full of shops and cafes, were nothing but construction. The ocean view that he was promised was blocked by another development that he hadn't been told about. And what's worse is the infrastructure wasn't there either. No easy access to transport, lots of traffic, no nearby shops or malls, no schools, no hospitals within a reasonable distance. So now Tom was stuck. He either had to wait years for the area to develop or sell the property at a loss. This scenario is particularly common in sometimes lagoon communities or community with waterfront developments, where buyers are sold primarily on the view and lifestyle promise. They're sold on a vision of what the area could look like, not what it actually is. And this is exactly why we always visit the sites. We understand the master plan ourselves. Before we recommend anything, we check out the developer, we see their track record. Have they done anything like this before? We do our full due diligence to check the locations and make sure what's actually being advertised is there. Because once you buy, There's no undo button. So if you're buying a home in Dubai, here's the rule. Do not just trust CGI images alone. Visit the site, check the infrastructure, check the developer, and make sure the area actually works for your lifestyle, and work with professionals who can help. Now, otherwise, you might end up in a place that only looks good on paper. So, looking at these 4 scenarios, it's clear that Dubai doesn't have bad areas, but it does have bad buys when expectations don't meet reality. Sarah's off-plan flip failed because she didn't understand the resale market. James overpaid for a new build and got lower rental yields than expected. Grace thought flipping properties was going to be easy, but ran into permit delays and quality issues. And Tom bought into a dream that never actually existed. And in every case, the problem wasn't the location, it was lack of understanding of how Dubai's property market actually works. That's why, before buying property in Dubai, whether for the investment or whether to live in, make sure you understand the numbers, the real ROI, the actual conditions of the property, and not just the sales pitch. And most importantly, get expert advice before you invest. Because in Dubai, if you know what you're doing, the opportunities are massive. And if you need help buying any of the 4 types of property we have mentioned, you can book a call using the link in the description. But knowing what not to buy is only half the battle. The other half is knowing exactly which properties will help you achieve your specific investment goals. So, check out the video where I reveal the best properties to buy in Dubai and how you can find them before everybody else does.